My parents gave my sister $1 million for her business idea and told me I was wasting space in their house. I was asked to leave with nothing and ended up sleeping in my car while she was fully supported. Instead of giving up, I focused on my work and slowly built my own company from the ground up. Years later, my success revealed the real difference between being handed everything and earning it yourself. The rain was a steady, icy drumbeat on the roof of my 10-year-old Honda Civic. It wasn't just rain. It was a physical manifestation of the cold dread that had been pooling in my stomach for the last 24 hours. I was parked in the driveway of my parents' sprawling, colonial-style home in Highland Park, the engine off, my breath fogging the windshield. I'd been sitting here for 10 minutes, gathering the courage to walk inside and face what I knew was coming. The house, always a beacon of manicured perfection, looked like a museum diorama of upper-middle-class success. It was a lie, or at least my place in it was. Inside, my sister, Annabelle, was no doubt holding court. 3 days ago, she'd unveiled her business plan to our parents over a specially prepared dinner of filet mignon and truffled potatoes. It was a concept for a bespoke, artisanal, subscription-based lifestyle concierge service for the eco-conscious elite. It involved sourcing hand-woven bamboo yoga mats from Bali, curating monthly boxes of vibrational crystals, and offering virtual mindfulness realignment sessions. The PowerPoint presentation, I'd heard from my mother's breathless retelling, was visionary. The financial projections were fantasy. The required seed funding, $1 million. I, on the other hand, had spent the last 3 years after college working as a junior software developer, quietly saving and building a prototype for a logistics optimization algorithm in my spare time. My pitch to my parents 6 months ago had been over meatloaf. I'd asked for a loan of $50,000 to build a minimum viable product and hire a freelance UI designer. My father had chewed slowly, swallowed, and said, "The tech bubble is always bursting, son. It's a crowded field. You need a safer path." The subject was dropped. Annabelle's path was paved with gold, simply because it was Annabelle's. She was the family's solar center, the brilliant, charismatic, demanding star. I was a distant, rocky moon, present, but cold and silent. My achievements, the scholarship that paid my own way through college, the promotions I earned, were met with polite, distracted nods. Hers, the participation trophies, the art history degree, the series of abandoned hobbies, were celebrated with champagne. I finally pushed the car door open, the rain immediately soaking through my hoodie. I jogged to the front door, let myself in with my key. The familiar scent of lemon polish and my mother's peony perfume hit me. Voices came from the formal living room. I could hear Annabelle's crystalline laugh, my father's low chuckle. I shrugged off my wet jacket and walked in. They were all there. My parents, Richard and Eleanor, seated on the cream-colored sofa. Annabelle perched on the arm of my father's chair, one hand resting possessively on his shoulder. A bottle of champagne sat in a silver ice bucket on the coffee table, 3 empty flutes beside it. A fourth glass, unused, sat to the side. "There you are," my mother said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "We were about to start without you." "Start what?" I asked, though I knew. My father cleared his throat, a sound he used to signal serious business. "We've made a decision about Annabelle's venture. We believe in it. We believe in her. We're going to provide the capital." I felt a numbness spread from my core. $1 million? The words were flat. "It's an investment in her future," my mother said quickly, defensively. "In a passion-driven enterprise. It's about more than money. It's about legacy." "And my algorithm?" I asked, looking at my father. "The 50,000. He shifted uncomfortably. "That's a different proposition, Liam. It's anonymous. Tech is a gamble. Annabelle's business is about connection, about community. It has soul. It has $1 million price tag for bamboo yoga mats," I said, the bitterness I'd been swallowing for years finally seeping into my voice. Annabelle's smile vanished. "Don't be reductive, Liam. You wouldn't understand the holistic market. Your world is ones and zeros. Mine is about human energy." I ignored her, focusing on my parents. "You have $1 million to give her? Just like that? What about retirement? What about the tight budget you always talk about when I ask for anything?" My father's face hardened. "We've managed our finances responsibly to be able to support our children's dreams. This is what that responsibility looks like." "For her dream," I clarified. What about mine? Do I get a turn? Or is my role just to stand here and applaud? The room went very still. My mother's carefully constructed pleasantness finally cracked. Liam, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This negativity. This sense of entitlement. Annabelle has a vision. She has drive. You just tinker in your room. You're content to drift. I work 60 hours a week. I shot back, my voice rising. I've saved $30,000. I'm not drifting, I'm building. I just need a launch pad. And what have you built here? My father said, his voice low and cold. He gestured around the room, at the house I'd lived in rent-free since graduating, a fact held over me constantly. You contribute nothing to this household. You eat the food. You use the utilities. You occupy space. For what? To chase a pipe dream in your spare time? While your sister is out there networking, building a brand. The words were physical blows. Contribute nothing? I fixed the leak in the basement last month. I set up Mom's entire home office network. I've been the on-call IT guy for this family for a decade. Manual labor, Annabelle sniffed. Anyone can watch a YouTube video and turn a wrench. I'm creating a movement. That was it. The last thread of hope snapped. I looked at my parents, truly looked at them. I saw not impartial judges, but investors who had already chosen their unicorn startup, and it wasn't me. I was a cost center, a line item to be minimized. My father stood up, his decision clearly solidified by my outburst. I think it's time you made your own way, Liam. You're 25. It's past time, frankly. You resent your sister's opportunity? Fine. Go make your own. This house, our resources, they're for family who are moving forward together. You're just wasting space here. Wasting space. The phrase echoed in the silent, opulent room. It defined me. My existence in this family was an inefficient use of square footage. My mother wouldn't meet my eyes. Annabelle looked at me with a mixture of pity and triumph. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. A profound, icy calm settled over me. All the fight drained out, replaced by a single, clear imperative: leave. Okay, I said, my voice eerily quiet. I turned and walked out of the living room. I went upstairs to the bedroom that had never really felt like mine. It was always the guest room Liam slept in. I took my large hiking backpack and a duffel bag. I packed only the essentials: my laptop, my external hard drives with all my code, my few good clothes, my toiletries, my important documents. I left behind the childhood trophies, the team photos, the books they'd bought me. In 10 minutes, I had erased my physical presence. I came back downstairs, my bags over my shoulders. They were still in the living room, the champagne now poured. They were toasting to Annabelle's future. They didn't look up as I walked past the doorway, out the front door, and into the cold rain. I threw my bags into the passenger seat of my Civic. The car, paid for with my own summer internship money, was now my only asset. I got in, started the engine, and drove away. I didn't know where I was going. I had $30,000 in savings, a car, and a profound, gaping hole where my family used to be. The first night, I slept in a 24-hour Walmart parking lot. I reclined the driver's seat, wrapped myself in a blanket from my emergency kit, and stared at the stained ceiling fabric. The reality was a crushing weight. I was homeless, by choice, but also by expulsion. The rain pattered on the roof. I was 25, college-educated, with a solid job, and I was living in my car because my parents had given my sister $1 million and told me I was wasting their space. That night, in the fluorescent glow of the Walmart sign, I made 2 vows. First, I would never ask them for anything again. Second, I would build something so real, so substantial, that my father's words would ring in his own ears as the most foolish he'd ever uttered. The next day, I began the logistical nightmare of car living while holding down a full-time job. I got a cheap gym membership for showers. I rented a small, secure storage unit for my non-essentials. I became a master of public libraries and coffee shops for Wi-Fi and workspace. I ate cheap, nutrient-dense food, cans of tuna, bags of almonds, bananas. My social life evaporated. All my energy and every spare dollar went into 2 things: survival and my algorithm. I worked my 9-to-5 job with robotic efficiency. Then from 6 until midnight, I coded. I refined the algorithm, a complex piece of software designed to optimize last-mile delivery routes for large urban areas, reducing fuel costs and time by analyzing insane amounts of real-time traffic, weather, and order data. It was unsexy. It was pure utility. It was the antithesis of vibrational crystals. For months, I was a ghost. I lost weight. My eyes had permanent dark circles. The loneliness was a physical ache, but it was a cleaner pain than the humiliation of being in that house. I channeled every ounce of rejection, every memory of Annabelle's smug face, every echo of wasting space into lines of code. This algorithm would be my vindication, or I would die trying. After 8 months, living on ramen and desperation, I had a working beta. It was ugly, but it worked. I called it Pathfinder. I needed a test. I quit my stable job, a move that would have given my father a coronary, and used the last of my savings to hire a freelance sales guy on commission. We targeted small, struggling local delivery companies. We offered the software for free for 3 months, with the condition we could use their performance data. The first company to say yes was Metro Quick Deliver, a family-run operation on the brink of collapse. The owner, a weary man named Sal, shrugged and said, "What have I got to lose?" We installed the software. Within a month, his fuel costs dropped 18%. His delivery times improved. Driver morale went up because their routes were smarter. Sal was able to take on more contracts. He became our first paying customer, a paltry $200 a month, but it was validation. The software worked. That $200 was the first brick. I plowed it back into development. I lived in my car for another whole year. The turning point came when a mid-sized regional logistics firm, Axon Deliveries, took a chance on us. Their CTO was a no-nonsense woman named Priya who saw past the rough interface to the powerful engine beneath. She signed a $5,000 a month pilot contract. It was enough to rent a crappy, windowless office space in a semi-industrial park. I slept on a futon in the back. It was a palace compared to the Honda. I hired my first real employee, Maya, a brilliant, fiercely loyal back-end engineer I'd met at a hackathon years prior. She believed in the vision and took a risky equity deal. Then came Leo, a front-end wizard who could make the ugly interface sing. We were a trio of misfits, working 18-hour days, fueled by pizza and a shared obsession with building something real. We landed a series of bigger clients. The revenue grew. I paid myself just enough to get a studio apartment. The first night, I slept in a real bed, in a room with a lock on the door. I cried from sheer exhaustion and relief. Meanwhile, I'd hear snippets about Annabelle's empire. Through the grapevine of mutual acquaintances and my mother's rare, guilt-tinged emails, which I rarely replied to, I learned the saga. The $1 million had been spent on a stunningly beautiful warehouse loft office in a trendy neighborhood, outfitted with reclaimed wood desks and living walls. It went to a lavish launch party with influencer gifts. It paid for a full-time staff of 10, including a chief vibes officer. It funded photo shoots in Costa Rica for the eco-conscious branding. The actual business, selling overpriced yoga mats and crystals, was an afterthought. Sales were minuscule. The subscription model bled money. My parents, according to the emails, were concerned but supportive. They believed it was just a slow start. They funneled more money, remortgaging the house. The narrative was always about Annabelle's brave journey and the toxic negativity of the market that didn't understand her vision. Pathfinder, on the other hand, grew silently and relentlessly. We didn't have a vibes officer. We had customer support specialists who solved real problems. We didn't have a fancy office. We upgraded to a slightly less crappy one. We focused on one thing, making our clients more efficient and profitable. Word spread in the unsexy, profitable world of logistics. 3 years after I'd been thrown out, we secured a series of funding round of $2 million from a venture capital firm that cared about metrics, not mindfulness. The lead investor, a man named Arthur who wore wrinkled khakis, told me, "Your product does what it says." It's a damn relief. With that capital, we scaled. We moved to a proper office in a business park. We hired more engineers, a sales team. I was CEO, but I still coded, still talked to customers. The company wasn't my family. It was my testament. Every line of code, every satisfied client, was a repudiation of my father's words. For years in, Pathfinder was acquired by a global shipping and logistics conglomerate. The deal was all stock, valuing our company at just over $90 million. My share, after the investors and team were paid out, left me with a net worth in the tens of millions. It was an absurd, surreal number. The boy who had slept in a Honda Civic was now wealthy beyond his childhood imagination. I didn't buy flashy cars or a jet. I bought freedom. And I bought a specific piece of it, a modern, minimalist beachfront villa on a secluded stretch of coast an hour from the city. It was glass and steel and light, with the constant, soothing roar of the Pacific as its soundtrack. It was the opposite of my parents' heavy, traditional colonial. It was my sanctuary, my victory lap. I had no contact with my family. The news of the acquisition, however, was covered in the business section of the paper. My name was there. My picture, a headshot from the company website. I knew they'd see it. A few weeks after I moved into the villa, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. It was my father. His voice sounded old, strained. Liam, it's Dad. I saw the news. Congratulations. That's quite an accomplishment. Your mother and we'd like to talk. Maybe see your new place. There was a desperate, humiliated pride in his tone. They wanted to inspect the trophy their cast-off had won. I deleted the message. I wasn't ready. The wound was scarred over, but the tissue was still tender. Then, one perfect, crystalline Saturday afternoon, it happened. I was on my expansive deck, reading a book, a cup of coffee beside me. The sea was a brilliant blue, the sun warm on my skin. I heard a car engine struggling on the steep, private road that led past my property. It wasn't a sound that belonged here. I looked up. A familiar, slightly battered BMW SUV came into view, crawling along. It was Annabelle's car. I recognized the faded, "OM is where the heart is" bumper sticker. The car slowed to a crawl as it passed my open gate, which showcased the long driveway leading to the stunning glass-fronted villa. I saw the driver's side window was down. I saw her. Annabelle. She was staring, her head turned fully toward my house. I couldn't see her expression from this distance, but her posture was rigid. The car stopped completely, idling in the middle of the quiet lane. Then, the scream. It wasn't a shout. It was a raw, ragged, primal shriek of utter anguish and fury that cut through the ocean's rumble. It was followed by a torrent of words, hysterical and loud enough for me to hear snippets. My life. That was supposed to be mine. Why? MOM, why does he get everything? It was supposed to be me. She was on the phone, screaming at her mother. I saw her pound the steering wheel with her fist. The car lurched forward suddenly, then sped away, disappearing around the bend, the echo of her scream lingering in the salt air. I sat very still. The coffee tasted especially good. The sun felt warmer. The sound of the waves was a symphony. In that scream was every unanswered question of my childhood, every ignored plea, every dismissed dream. It was the sound of their narrative imploding. The golden child had not just tarnished. She had melted down in the face of the moon's cold, hard light. I didn't feel triumph. I felt a deep, profound quiet. The scales were not even. They could never be, but they were no longer tilted so violently in her direction. She had seen the physical proof of my labor, my silence, my endurance, and it had broken her. About an hour later, my phone buzzed. It was my mother. I almost didn't answer, but a cold curiosity won out. Liam. Her voice was thin, wrecked. She'd been crying. Yes. Did you see her? Annabelle said she drove past your house. I saw a car, I said neutrally. She's not well. The business, it's finished. The creditors, we lost the house, Liam. The bank took it last month. We're in a rental. Annabelle has moved back in with us. She has nothing. She's devastated. I said nothing. Let her sit in the silence of their consequences. She saw your home, and she just shattered. She kept screaming, "Why does he get everything?" And what did you tell her, Mom? I asked, my voice calm. A long, shuddering sob came down the line. I didn't know what to say. Tell her this, I said, each word deliberate. He got nothing, so he built everything. She got everything, and she built nothing. That's the lesson. That's the only answer. Liam, please. We're your family. We're in trouble. Can you? Is there any way? I cut her off. The request I knew was coming. No, but you have so much now. Millions. You could help your sister get back on her feet. You could help us. After all we did for you. You gave me a car to live in, I said, the ice returning to my voice. You gave me the motivation of utter rejection. You gave me the clarity of knowing I was truly on my own. That was your contribution. It was, ironically, the most valuable thing you ever gave me. Don't ask for a return on that investment now. You have a daughter back at home. Focus on her. I hung up. I blocked the number. I walked to the edge of my deck, leaned on the railing, and watched the endless horizon. The vastness of the ocean mirrored the vast distance I had put between myself and the people who had defined me as space. Annabelle's scream was the final echo of my old life. It was the sound of a paradigm shifting. She had been told her whole life she was destined for greatness, that she was the special one. My parents had invested not just money, but their entire identity in that story. My success was an impossible plot twist, a glitch in their matrix. My beachfront villa wasn't just a house. It was a monument to the power of showing up, doing the work, and building something useful in the silence while others were celebrating their own potential. In the end, they'd given her $1 million and a fantasy. They'd given me nothing but a push out the door. And in that stark imbalance, we had each received exactly what we needed to become who we truly were. She became a vessel for wasted potential and entitlement. I became an architect. The villa was quiet. The only sounds were the waves and the wind. I was alone, but for the first time in my life, the aloneness didn't feel like loneliness. It felt like peace. It felt like mine. I had taken their wasted space and turned it into a kingdom. And the view was spectacular. If you've ever been underestimated and used that as fuel, this story is for you. Share it with anyone who needs a reminder that your starting point doesn't define your finish line. Subscribe for more tales of quiet resilience and loud vindication.